You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hi, folks. How's it going? It's 2019. This is the first episode of 2019 coming at you. Oh, man, that's exciting. It's going to be a good year. I feel like it's going to be just a fantastic year, and I think you should start off the year properly. What do I mean by that? I mean, start it off with a fresh wiring harness from Gun Street Wiring Shop. Sean and the crew down in Bend, Oregon can make whatever you need. You want push-pull pots, you want series parallel, what do you need? They got you. They'll hook it up, and it will be finely assembled. It will be beautiful, and if a buffoon like me can install it, then you know you can handle it too. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out. We are also brought to you by Keeley Electronics. Fine stomp boxes down in Oklahoma. You know Robert Keeley. He's like one of the pedal kings or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what he is, but he's definitely a legend in the industry. Keeley Electronics makes some of the best effects in the business, and they have for many, many years. Make sure and check them out also at NAMM 2019, which is going to be great. It's going to be great fun. Rob and the team are really doing some cool stuff. I'm really excited to see what they have coming. He's hinted at some pretty insane things. So make sure to check them out, rkfx.com. If you Google Keeley, you're going to find him. You know where to go. Check out Keeley Electronics on all the socials and all that stuff. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Robert Keeley, Keeley Electronics. They got what you need. Lastly, if you like the show, if you want to support the show, if you can go to tonemob.com/reverb to do any of your pedal shopping or your string shopping or capos or anything you need that's on reverb.com. If you go to tonemob.com/reverb and do all your normal shopping, a little bit of that will get kicked back towards the show and help keep this whole thing rolling. It doesn't cost you anything extra, nothing like that. You just do all your normal reverb shopping through tonemob.com/reverb, and that helps keep the show going. Also, I want to say thank you because a lot of you are taking advantage of that, and that helps out a lot, and it's just a win-win-win for everybody. So if we could keep that up, that would be amazing. So thank you very much. I know a lot of you use reverb, and that just makes it just a little bit easier to keep this thing on the rails. So without further ado, I am very, very excited about this episode. I think it came out really excellent. Sadler plays with one of my favorite artists, Jason Isbell, and it was really cool to get to talk to him. He's a super awesome dude, and he makes cool music himself. So go check him out after you listen to this episode. I think you guys are really going to like this. It's awesome. Also, he will be at NAMM. So, if you're going to be down there, you might hit him up. He's doing some picking and a grinning at the Vox booth, I'm told. So, anyway, all that to say, here's an episode with Sadler Vaden. Boom. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Sadler Vaden, guitarist extraordinaire.
Thank you. That's quite the tag, but thanks for having me on.
Yo, thanks for being here. I really, really appreciate it. This
You're
is
welcome.
going to be, I can already tell this is going to be good.
I feel that
listeners
too.
don't know.
We're 30 seconds in. I'm feeling like this is going to be very special.
Oh, you can almost feel the magic in the air, right? Good times. So I obviously know a lot of the answers to some of the questions I'm going to ask you, but not not all of them. And this is one of those not all of them because I don't know your history super well, but this is always a good place to kind of kick things off. And, it's a very broad and usually takes a while to cover. But what is your musical backstory and how did it lead you to where you are currently?
I would say it started. Um, well, it would start before I picked up the guitar at age 10. My parents played a lot of music in the house growing up. They weren't musicians themselves, but they were just music fans. So I grew up with just music going on. So my dad had a pretty nice record collection. And he was born in 1952, so you can imagine the records he collected.
Oh, yeah.
Through his life, and those different eras. So a lot of rock and roll, a lot of rhythm and blues, and so I would say that's kind of where my musical background started. Just listening to a lot of that stuff growing up with my parents, entertaining friends and playing records in the house and stuff like that. When I was 10 years old, I didn't have too much of interest in music, but I was into things like playing soccer and having a skateboard, things like that.
Right.
And mind you, I grew up in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So there was the beach and, kids skated and surfed and did different things like that. So my parents took me to a concert called Farm Aid. And it was
Okay. Yeah.
it was yeah. And this was 1996. So I was 10 years old at the time. And the headliners that year, one of the headliners that year was Hootie and the Blowfish, and they were so big at the time that when they were asked to perform at Farm Aid, they said, "Well, we'll only do it if you do it in South Carolina."
Oh,
So,
wow.
they did it in South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium, where the Gamecocks play. And my parents took my sister and I to that show, and it just was a big moment. Because Neil Young and the Crazy Horse headlined, John Mellencamp, of course, Hootie and the Blowfish, but the Beach Boys, Sun Volt, Steve Earle, Tim McGraw, Rusty
Wow.
Root. It just goes on and on, right? So that was just a highly influential moment on me as a kid. So when I got home from the concert, my dad got his Yamaha FG 180 Red Label acoustic out of the closet and started picking around on it because he was really inspired. He just saw Neil Young on one of his favorites, and so I kind of peeked my head through the door. Dad's playing the guitar. He never gets the guitar out, and he's like, "Come on in here and try this out." And so that's really what started it all. He was figuring out "Hey Hey My," just by ear, don 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 don.
Right.
And some other things. And he had kind of figured out Here Comes the Sun. He was really good at figuring things out by ear. If he sat there long enough, he could figure it out. So he kind of showed me a few things there, but that's really where it all started. And then, I don't know if you want me to get into the career stuff right now, but that's kind of where it all began with me.
I think
starting music.
I think go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, I just was obsessed with it. I was completely infatuated with playing the guitar. I'd go to school, and the only thing on my mind all day was getting back home and picking that acoustic guitar up because, I was starting out. I couldn't do anything on it, but I was like, oh, I want to get this chord so bad. I want my fingers to do this thing that they won't do yet, So every day at school, I was like, man, I can't wait to get home and get that guitar out and try to get whatever I was trying to learn done. So that just led me to just start playing it all the time, and more and more I kind of kept getting better at it. And my parents were like, well, do you want to have lessons? You want to do all that? And I was kind of like, as a kid, it's funny. I was like, no, I don't really want any. I don't know. I just want to keep playing it. because I had like some piano lessons, like 3 of them, and I didn't like it. So I think I was turned off from lessons at that age.
No, I understand.
So I started getting like guitar magazines, and my friend down the street uh, was taking guitar lessons, so he knew how to read tablature. And I would get these guitar magazines, and he kind of taught me how to read tablature in the back of those magazines. And so that's what really kicked things off, because then I was just obsessed with getting Guitar Worlds and Guitar Players and Guitar Ones and all the guitar magazines, and anything in the back of those magazines I would try to learn. So that's when things really started to kind of take off for me. I remember I learned the whole solo to "You Shook Me All Night Long" by AC/DC. So that was like the first complete solo I ever learned. I was probably 12 or 13 at that time.
Okay.
And remember my folks saw that I was really into guitar, so they got me an electric guitar that was a Harmony, and it came with a amp. It was called an Optimus amp. It was basically, you remember the mail order catalogs like Belk and JCPenney and
Oh, of course.
do you remember
yeah.
that stuff? So I think
yeah.
this was a Fingerhut one or something. Anyway, they bought me one of those like Christmas package things, like with the Harmony guitar and the amp and the cable. And probably came with a VHS or something too. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So many kids started off that way. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So that's how I started too, as far as like that was my first electric thing. And then man, I just kept on playing, and finally my dad found a Les Paul copy guitar. It was made by a company called Samick. Do you remember that company?
I definitely know Samick.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still around.
Are they still around?
Like more. Yeah, as far as I know, they're more of like a. I could be making this up, but I think
Band
in my head
instruments?
they do band instruments, but they do like not Samick guitars. You know what I mean? Like they
Okay.
do, like they still make guitars or have them made or whatever the case may be, but they like have different brands, and they're all kind of like sort of like what you described, like the Harmony mail order type stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's like, not like First Act necessarily, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see if First Act was made by Samick. They do a lot of things like that, as far as I know.
But like entry level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I could be making that up. I could have just filled everyone's head with a bunch of nonsense. But in my brain, that's what I remember hearing from somebody recently.
I'm down. We need more mythology these days. So
anyway.
So my dad got me this Samick copy Les Paul, and that eventually got stolen. But that's when things really got started to take off, because it was a nicer guitar than the Harmony I got, and then they got me like a Marshall Valve State amp, a little combo amp, and that's when things really kind of got serious. So I'll fast forward a little bit. Very young, started playing guitar at 10, self-taught. Step by step, my parents would get me nicer equipment, whatever they kind of could afford. They couldn't afford much. It's not like I started out with like, here's a Fender Strat, so kind of
right.
It was a slow build. And then around 15, I started my own band in high school, and we were called the Revolving 45. And that's when I really started writing like original music and things like that. And I ended up not finishing high school because I just wanted to concentrate on music. I did not care about schoolwork, and I wish I did finish high school, but it was just something that happened, and I dropped out my junior year. Well, the band kind of split up, as most high school bands do, and
right.
I was kind of getting known around town as like this young kid. This is probably age 17 at this point, as this young kid that plays guitar really well. And so I started getting called to like play with these cover bands downtown and stuff like that. And I wasn't even old enough. I wasn't even allowed to be in some of the bars. And this is in Charleston, South Carolina, because we had moved from North Myrtle Beach. So started getting calls like that. And then there was a band in Charleston called the Working Title who was signed to Universal Records, and they were like, the local band that got signed. And they were really good, and they needed an extra guitarist to kind of fill a lot of the things that they had put down on their record and everything. So my name got tossed in the hat. They ended up liking me, hired me. So I was a hired gun starting at age 18.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
And right around that time, I lost my father, and and it was like my father passed away, and then immediately getting in a van and doing some really hard touring. But it was totally worth it because I was getting to see what it's really like, especially like, oh, my dog's going crazy in the background. That's real, everybody.
Stop podcasting.
Yeah,
Pay attention to me.
Lucy, stop. Hold on, I'm going to close my door.
All right, no worries. No worries.
Lucy,
this is real. This is raw, everybody. Lucy's upset.
All right. So
I'm probably going to leave that in. I don't know.
Yeah, leave it in. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that was a really like great opportunity for me because I was getting to see kind of like what the touring world and professional music world was all about, So the guy that was working for the band, he was sort of driving and selling merch. His name was Jonathan Carmen. He was a drummer, and I still had in my mind I wanted to do my own thing. So him and I, when we get back home off the road, we started like jamming and everything. And so I ended up being like, well, dude, we need to start a band. So ultimately we did. And we found a bass player, and I ended up leaving the Working Title. And we started a group called Leslie, named after the Leslie speaker. And
very cool.
Yeah. And it was a power trio. Ultimately, I mean, we didn't start out being like, we're going to have a power trio, but ultimately that's what it was. And so it was all original music, and we made some EPs, and I did that for around 7 years. Did that band, and we toured a lot. We never made it overseas, and we never actually had a booking agent and things like that, but we toured as much as we could on our own, and everything pretty much that's led me to now can be traced back to that band because everything that's happened to lead me to here is because of that band, because we used to open for Driving and Crying, and we used to open for Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit and things like that. So that's when I really like met a lot of people, especially in the Southeast. And when Leslie disbanded in 2011, I moved to Nashville, and simultaneously I got the call from Driving and Crying to join their band because their guitar player had quit. So I joined Driving and Crying, which those of you who don't know is a great American rock band from Atlanta, Georgia. And they were really popular in the late 80s and early 90s. And in the Southeast, they're just one of the big rock bands. And they came out of the sort of REM era, the South, college rock thing. So I saw Driving and Crying open up for The Who when I was 10 years old. And so I'd been a fan for a long time. So getting that call was like a huge deal for me to play with them and get to know the guys in the band, and especially the singer-songwriter frontman Kevin Kinney. And I did that for 2 years, and then Jason Isbell calls me and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a guitarist to join the band," and he was about to put out the record Southeastern, and here I am now, 5 years later.
That's
I know that's a long-winded story, but
it's really not. Everyone acts like, oh, I gotta make this short, and it's like,
yeah,
nah, man, we can go as long as you want, because all this is fascinating to me. Like I like to know, what makes people tick and how they got to where they are, because that's really what's fascinating about doing this. I mean, yeah, I like to nerd out on gear and talk about this stuff, but it's really the people that make it interesting.
Yeah, well, I know I left a lot of details out, but that's pretty much a good a little bit more than the Cliff's Notes, version. So that's really what's led me here. And it's a good place to be. I'm super happy with who I'm playing with and the other things I get to do, and I'm fortunate to have worked with some really good songwriters, and but like I said, I can trace all this back to having my own band. If I hadn't have done that and tried that for as long as I tried it, it may not have led me here. So I'm really thankful that I chased that down for a while. So
Yeah, well, I mean, you did it for long enough that I personally would think that you could say you didn't just try it. Like, you did it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Trying is like a year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you did the thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess I mean in the sense of like I tried to make that the thing, and it didn't.
It was for a while.
It was for a while, but it didn't become, how I supported myself and things like that. So
Right.
and
I understand.
And in this business, you have to support yourself.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%. I kind of came up in the early 2000s punk rock thing, and you would in that when I was a teenager, I'd read about bands quote unquote selling out, and today as an adult, I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, yeah, you don't want to like do something that compromises your morals, but
Well,
like,
yeah.
you gotta pay the bills. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever thought.
Yeah.
As like one of the dumbest things I've ever thought.
Compromising your morals is one thing, but trying to create music that not only you like, but you think other people will like too, that's another thing. So
Totally.
it's okay to want to make music that other people like.
Yes.
In my book, that's totally fine. And I think, you should in some ways. So,
well, yeah, I mean, there is a huge part of music that is cathartic and is for you to express yourself in some way. And that is like a necessary thing that a lot of us have in us. But at the same time, it's really cool when people dig it. Like, that's way cooler than nobody liking it.
Yeah, that feels good.
Likes it. Yeah.
For sure. And if you can do both, then there's the magic.
Exactly. 100%. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say a couple things about this. Like, excuse me, I'm a big fan of Jason's, and I caught you guys when you came through Portland, Oregon here recently, and I want to ask you if it was weird playing at a zoo.
So you were at the zoo show.
I was at the zoo show.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely weird when you wake up and get off the bus and it's like lions and like elephants and stuff. And but it was really cool. I just hope that we weren't bothering the animals in some way. But it was a very cool space, to do a concert. I liked it. It was cool. I walked around the zoo some. So
yeah, it was kind of funny. I've only caught 2 shows there. It's a when I first heard about it, I'm like, that's a silly venue. But then when I actually saw the shows there, I'm like, actually, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what's wonderful about it is like it can fit quite a bit of people, but it doesn't feel like a big stadium show or anything.
Yes.
And
that's outdoors, which is nice.
Yeah, it's outdoors. There's elephants. And the other part for me, and I don't know if you got to experience this at all, they had really wonderful food trucks in the back where you could go get like legit wood-fired pizza and stuff.
I didn't get to experience the food trucks, but I do love a food truck, and a good one at that.
Yeah.
And I mean, being more than just an outdoor venue, well, it's a zoo, but yeah, it's a zoo. Everything like looks cool. It's meant for people to come and enjoy the landscaping and all the stuff that is there for you to enjoy. So I like that concept, it was sweet. And then Amy Mann opened up, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's always a treat.
So, I mean, it sounds like a good night to me.
It was a great night, and what you might find this kind of interesting. I don't know. This is something I found interesting. So I caught you guys there, which and Amy, and that made a lot of sense. That style of music in that setting made a lot of sense. But what didn't make a lot of sense, but was still really fun, is the year prior to that, I believe, or maybe a few months. I can't remember. My time gets all jumbled up. I caught Flogging Molly there,
Mm-hmm.
which was a weird kind of experience because the last Flogging Molly show I went to was like an indoor, maybe 1,500 seat venue where everybody's like dancing and going to town. So this was like a huge kind of
Contrast.
it's a pretty big venue. Yeah, and everyone was standing for the most part at the Flogging Molly show, but nobody was like doing the thing that I associate with Flogging Molly, which is like a whole bunch of swinging and dancing and
Skanking
it was
around.
like, yeah, it was really weird, but it was still fun. But like, I don't know, it was a weird juxtaposition of shows for me. It'd be like almost like seeing like the only way it could get weirder is if I seen like a metalcore show there or something. I think. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and then you come to our show and everyone's crying.
Dude,
all the grown
seriously.
men are crying.
This is another confession time, and I've already told the listeners this, but I don't know if you can actually maybe you were intimately involved in the process, so this might be interesting. I remember when the most recent record came out, and I was listening on my way to my old job, and If We Were Vampires came on. I'd never heard it before, and I was literally sobbing.
Oh yeah,
like I hadn't had that happen maybe ever.
I don't think I have either.
Just crying. I was like, "What is happening to me? I'm a grown man."
Yeah,
and when Jason, what's the process like with you guys? Actually, that would probably be a better question.
Well, we don't hear anything before we enter the studio on day one.
Oh, okay.
So it's really the process is very just raw and kind of all happening in the moment. So like when he played that song, of course he has the story of his wife Amanda was like, let's do the vampire song, and I think Jason or Amanda kept saying to Dave, like, yeah, I want, maybe we want to do this vampire song next, or wait till you hear this vampire song. And I think Dave was like, yeah, we'll get to that at some point. Vampires? What the hell is he talking about? So,
right.
but when he went in and obviously he went in alone on the floor, on the tracking floor, and we were on the control room, and he went and played it and sang it by himself. All of us were like, whoa, this is a good song. But I didn't really understand. I don't know. I mean, when you're in that moment, you're kind of listening to a lot of different things. And so I didn't really dial in on the lyrics quite yet. I just knew that I dialed in on some of them, and I just knew it was a beautiful song. But when I got the masters to listen to of the whole record, it got to Vampires, and I was actually I had it on the stereo, and I was in the bedroom making our bed, and I was like tossing the sheet, shaking it out and laying it on the bed, and I was listening to the song, and I just started crying. And I was like a grown man making the bed, crying, listening to a record that he's a part of. It was just a lot of funny things. But I mean, that song is just so real and heavy, and it's such a beautiful way to think about death, that's imminent for everyone. And and having lost both of my parents at a young age, that I mean, that kind of thing, it hits me. So and but not only me, it hits a lot of people. So it should hit everyone, because it's something that's that happens to all of us. So it's just a beautiful song, and it's really it's something else to play that song live and just kind of look out and see some of the reactions out there. It can be pretty heavy sometimes because you don't know what people are going through or not going through.
Right, or just thinking about, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a there's something to that track in particular. Everything about it is awesome. I think it's one of the best songs I've ever heard, and
I agree with you.
I think that universally, everyone that I've ever showed that song to or talked to about it is like there's something to it when everyone's like, that song, man, like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my wife showing me this video, and you may have seen it. There's these guys on YouTube that do, like, they basically react to songs, and there's a lot of guys that do this, but they
I've seen
generally
this, yeah.
focus on,
Yeah.
they focus on hip hop.
Yeah.
And they were just like borderline in tears listening to it, and then somebody commented, because they didn't realize it was Amanda singing harmony.
Yeah.
And they were like, man, whoever this girl is awesome. And somebody commented on it like, yeah, that's his wife. They're like, oh man, they would have lost it. Like, it's a great video. Look it up, people. I don't know what it's called, but if you feel like If We Were Vampires reaction, I'm sure you'll see it.
Yeah, I know exactly. I don't know if I've seen that one, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I would definitely, and maybe I'm biased, but I don't think so. I would put that song in the upper echelons of like great songs for sure. I mean, to me, and this could be a pretty controversial statement, but to me, it's like it's up there with like Yesterday or something by the Beatles. I mean, I don't know. It's just like I don't know. I would put it up there against a lot of those songs that are known as like the greatest songs. I truly feel that way. Not
I
because I'm in this
100%
band.
agree.
So yeah. Cheers to Jason for writing that.
Yeah, big time. You tell him next time you see him, a big personal thank you from me and my wife, because she loves it too.
Yeah.
Great. Actually, what's really funny is I told her that we were doing this, but I walked in the house to grab, well, I told you I grabbed some batteries for my mouse, and she's listening to Southeastern when I walked in there.
Oh, sweet.
I was like, oh, well, which is not at all uncommon. She's always listening to something. But
yeah.
I was like, this is kind of funny.
Does she know you're working with me today?
She does. Okay. She does. She's very excited about it.
Yeah, she was in the mood to listen to some stuff. Cool.
Yeah, just good stuff. But that could be literally any day of the week that she would be listening to that. But yeah, it was just kind of funny. I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Well, I'm gonna grab these batteries real quick and run back out here.
Oh, okay. That's weird, but okay.
No, yeah, that's awesome. Coincidence.
Yeah.
So I told I wasn't she wasn't the only one looking forward to this. But before we get too into the gear stuff, I have a Facebook group, and I told them you were coming on, and some people had some questions for you.
All right.
And so let me bring those up. I had them queued up, and then of course my phone did something dumb. So let me pull that up real fast. This is very professional podcasting. Okay, let's see what some of the questions we got. Okay, another Blake Lawson asked, he wants to know, is there, because like Jason, like you are a very accomplished guitar player, and Jason is obviously a very accomplished guitar player, and the whole band, the 400 unit, is like insanely talented. Do you struggle at all, or is it relatively easy to find a place to kind of slot in with another like epically talented guitar player? I reworded his question a little bit, but that's basically what he was.
Well, first off, hello, Blake. Thanks for the question. Do I find it tough? I mean,
maybe I should read it verbatim, and that will make a little more sense. His question would be, what are the real world struggles of finding your place sonically in a band like the 400 unit?
Okay. I wouldn't say there's struggles, but it's really important. The most important thing is what not to play, what you shouldn't play. Or let me rephrase that, when you shouldn't play, I think is really important. Like I've told people before, like the best pedal I have is a tuner, because it, like, meaning the on and off switch is the best pedal because it's really not about like always playing. It's about like stopping and starting again. And so, I just try to do things that are going to float. Like, well, I'll just get more exact. We'll get the X-Acto knife out here. Like Derry has his parts, as we all have our parts, like melodic lead lines and things like that we play, and then a lot of it's sort of interpreted from night to night, as Jason encourages. He obviously, the signature melodic lead lines need to be there, but he doesn't want somebody just playing like the same solo every single night or whatever. Like, you can stretch out a bit. So, but Jason, while he's singing, I mean, he's pretty much playing the guitar throughout the song, and he actually starts a lot of the songs off with him playing the guitar. So, it's really me and Derry that are kind of floating around each other. So it's really just, it's not really a struggle. It's just like listening to what's going on, and a lot of the the stuff that Derry's doing isn't necessarily going to change like too much night after night. So, because he's playing like two keyboards at one time, and he's really got a lot of signature parts going on. So I'm kind of like, it's honestly easy for me to just kind of float around and, not play too much, but I can throw in some licks and things like that and mess around with some different effects from night to night. So it's just not really a struggle, but I try to be tasteful with it. So,
well, mission accomplished.
Thank you.
Attest to that. Yes. That was a great answer.
Okay, good.
Let's see. I mean, that's what I expected you to say, but it was because that's how it comes off, and good. I think that's probably why he asked the question in the first place.
I'm not saying I wouldn't struggle elsewhere in another band. I just mean in this particular setup, and we're all used to playing with each other, so it's not really a struggle. It's just more of like, I guess, don't play too much. So,
right,
or at
right.
least
serve the
I'm
song.
Just, yeah, and that's where I come from as a player, and all my favorite guitar players were like in bands and stuff. Like all my guys, were song servants and songwriters and stuff like that. So, and I'm fortunate that Jason is a great guitarist. It's awesome, because I mean, I feel like we push each other all the time, and he likes to step out and take a solo, and then sometimes he passes it off to me, and it depends on what he did with his solo is can influence how I'm going to treat my solo. And,
right.
And honestly, it's cool to have another player in the band that's really good on the guitar. Instead of like him not being so accomplished, and he likes to take a bunch of solos.
Yeah, that's another problem.
That's a whole other problem.
That's what it's like being in a band with me.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah. I don't solo much. I just beat things into submission with fuzz pedals. Let's see. Pull up a couple other ones here. I know Jason uses some. I'm not so sure if you actually do, but you would have some insight into this. Luke Glover wants to know about the pros and cons of using vintage guitars on the road.
Okay. Well, I don't own too many vintage guitars. I actually just bought a Vox Grand Prix, and I'm not even sure the year of it. It might be like a 1968 Vox Grand Prix. So that right now, that's the oldest guitar I own. And then aside from that is a B-Bender Telly made by the company Tokai, and that is somewhere in the 80s, as far as when it was made, and then the next in line to that is my 92 Rickenbacker 12 string, which is a reissue, but it was built in 1992. So, those are really my vintage guitars. But pros and cons, I'm not really sure. That'd be more of a question for Jason. But But he's got a wonderful guitar tech named Michael Bethencourt. So Michael really knows how to take care of those guitars. And I would say cons being like if you're carrying vintage guitars and you're touring in a van and trailer, there's just cons all over the place with that because they're vintage guitars and you're traveling around in a van and trailer. Now the way
Pretty
we
obvious.
the way we travel now is we have a truck and the guitars are in a vault and things like that. So they have humidifiers in the vault and things like that. So there's really not too many at a certain level. So for Jason, I mean, we're both the type of players like, unless it's like the guitar that Stairway to Heaven was recorded on or something like that. I mean, we're going to play them. We like playing,
Right.
we don't own the guitars to hang on the wall or put in a glass case. So, we like to change guitars for songs, and it's not just for looks. I mean, we really are changing guitars for the different tones to serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So
for the sound or the feel or both.
Yeah. Apologies for not answering that question. I guess maybe how what you would expect, how you would expect me to answer, but I guess it really depends on how you're traveling. So those are the pros and cons.
Gotcha. Well, you answered another one inadvertently when somebody, Brett Alexander, asked, does he need a guitar tech? It doesn't sound like you do. So there's that.
We'll keep you in mind, Brett.
We got a couple more. Actually, we don't have that many more. But we do have one more really good one. Sean Dolan just wants me to tell you thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
So there you go. And then this is the last one from the listeners, and this is a very good one. And I think you'll have some good insight into this. How do you keep your hair so silky smooth? From Stephen Reynolds.
Well,
I didn't make any of these up, by the way. These are legit.
That's fine. Like, if this is silky smooth to you, then I want to know what rigid looks like. But I mean, okay. Well, here's what I do: I shampoo it, and then I brush it.
Oh, well, that sounds complicated. It's genetics then. So sorry, Stephen, you're out of luck.
I don't use a hair dryer. So there you go, man. Air dry. Air dry, baby. And then I like to go like every other day washing it. So you might have caught me on like one of those interim days where I hadn't shampooed it. So a little extra grease. So yeah. The natural oils, keeping it fresh. Yeah. And this podcast has been
I've never asked anyone that.
By Tresemme.
Hey, let me just say, as a podcaster, and you can relate to this as a musician, if Tresemme wants to sponsor this episode, info@tonemob.com, get at me.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, that's enough of that's Dr. all Brenners. Of the listener question for now. But let's get into what we should have been talking about 35 minutes ago, probably.
Okay. What's
your rig looking like these days? You talked about your guitars. What about the pedal board and the rest of the goodies?
So, the amps. Let's start with the amps. So I'm still using my Third Power British Dream 112 combo, which is one side of it is a Vox 59 AC, and then the other channel is based on a Marshall 68 Plexi. And I switch between those pretty much the whole show. Between those two channels for different guitars and different parts and stuff. And then I've been using a Vox hand-wired AC30 with Alnico Blue speakers. And I just actually bought a 1965 Vox pacemaker. That's usually a solid state amp, but this one's all tube. And so I switched out my AC30 for this pacemaker because it sounds so good. And shout out to Trevor Boone at Emerald City Guitars because he's the one who hooked me up with that amp. And
that's a wonderful shop.
Yeah, great shop. Yep, in Seattle. Yep, great folks there. And so that's it amp wise, and they're both on. the whole show.
Both on all the time? Okay.
All the time. Yep. And really the way I see it with that is that if one amp went down, God forbid both of them go down at the same time, which would be rare, but if one amp went down out front for the front of house engineer, he's got something. Like if he loses some, like he's got another amp. So it's just kind of, and he mixes both of them in to the mix, but if, like I said, if one amp goes down, the other one's there. So just kind of a safety there.
That's a good point. And it doesn't even have to be the amp. It could be the mic or the cable or anything else in between too. So that's something I never really thought of before.
Yep. And I also just like the sound of two amplifiers as well, like in phase and everything. It sounds great. So we'll move on to, I'm going backwards, starting with the amp. All right, moving through the cable now. We're going into the pedal board. The pedal board actually is pretty simple. Guitar into a Michael Bethencourt, our guitar tech, built a junction box that I go into, and then that has a line out to my tuner, and then it's got the 2 lines going out to the amps, and then it has a line that goes into my effects. So it's and that's got a buffer in it as well. So like basically out of that junction box, and then he's got a in from the last of the pedals going back into that junction box. So he's wired it to where it's acts as like a pedal board, but it's just nice and neat with the junction box. And I have a kill switch on the junction box that goes to my tuner, and I also have a volume pedal that I can kill as well. So into the junction box, and then the first, it's not really an effect, but I use a Dunlop volume pedal, and then that goes into a Crybaby wah. Got to have the wah pedal, and then from there I go into, I believe I go into my compression. Yes, go into my compressor, which is a forest green, Matt Professor, and then after that, I think I'm going into my time-based effects. I want to say, I could be wrong on that, but I play my time-based effects. I have an Analog Man dual delay, and I have the Blue Sky Strymon. And then for gain structures, I have the Greer Lightspeed, which I love.
Good pedal.
Good pedal. I have the Greer Amps Tar Pit, which is a great pedal. And then I have the King of Tone.
Classic.
And so I've got all my gain staging going into a Walrus Transit looper. So that's at the bottom of my board, so I can access probably my most used pedal is the yellow side of the King of Tone, which is I use it as a clean boost. And then so I have all that going in. I have both channels of the King of Tone in each individual channel on a looper. So I can access the King of Tone yellow or the King of Tone red, or stack them in series. And then I have the Lightspeed, the compressor, the fuzz, the tar pit, and then beside the looper I have my third power amp switcher. So, and that's a gain stage as well, because I've switched between Vox to the Marshall side, and the Marshall side is going to be more crunchy.
Right, of course.
So and then I'm forgetting one important piece. I have the blue Line 6 modulation pedal.
Oh, you don't hear about those too often. Most people always want to talk about the DL4, but you like that modulation pedal.
I mean, it just does it. It just does what I need it to do. I don't have to bank. It's not like an Eventide H9 or a Strymon, was it Mobius or whatever. It just, I preset, I've got 4 presets, so I don't need more modulation effects than that necessarily. So I have slow Leslie, then fast Leslie, and then I have tremolo, and then I have pitch vibrato. So those are the modulation settings I have. And I just like it because it's just basic pretty much. And I can just click that button, and that's what I'm going to get at. It's fast. If I want to throw a tremolo or something on, on a part, I don't have to bank on anything, and it's just there. It's accessible for me. Boom. So that's why I like that pedal, and it sounds fine to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like Mike Campbell used it for a while, or maybe he still uses it. Look, if it's good enough for Mike Campbell, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's a worthy thing to stand by. I think if he uses it, yeah, it's probably gonna work for me.
Yeah, I
Me
mean,
of all.
I just feel like, I mean, one of the best guitarists ever. I mean, if it works, and I've seen him live plenty of times, and if he's using that on his modulation stuff, it sounds great. So, and it's modulation. So
I'm weird with modulation. I love flanger, and
yeah,
I feel like I'm sometimes I didn't realize this until a couple podcasts ago when I was like, "What do you mean people hate flanger?" And then I realized actually, yeah, I heard that a lot. A lot of people hate flanger, but man, I love a good flange pedal.
I like a flanger.
A
I like the
flanger,
old
yeah.
flanger. Yeah.
I just put some
Well,
flang on it.
flangers are. I'm gonna call it flangers for the rest of the afternoon.
That's fine. Let's do it.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, you tread lightly, but it's a cool effect, and it's also like cool to throw on like throw it on like piano, like in the studio or
Mm-hmm.
something. You'd be surprised at what it does to like other instruments too. So don't be hating on the flanger out there, all right?
Yeah,
Um,
get your flang
yeah,
on.
yeah. and then uh, and then I like a good phaser
I love phaser.
times. But I
How do you do
really
the
love.
outlaw country without the phaser?
Yeah, and I like a pitch vibrato, man. Something about the pitch vibrato I'm really into. I mean, if you've seen us live, I use it on like Speed Trap Town. I use it on the bridge to our song Anxiety. I mean, it shows
Yes,
up.
yes.
Yeah, it
Okay,
shows
that's
up.
what you were doing
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That sounded really good.
There you go. Blue
Pitch
Line 6.
vibrato. There you go. Another modulation I like that is sometimes like I don't know if in a live setting I would be able to pick it out, but like when I'm nerding out by myself, I really like harmonic tremolo. A good harmonic tremolo
Yeah,
is underrated, I think.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. There's so many different types of tremolo pedals and stuff like that. Like it's cool when you can find. It's cool that there are so many different types, and you can find different tremolo-y things instead of just your basic bias tremolo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then and actually my Vox pacemaker has an awesome tremolo built in to it. And then guitar wise, I think I bring in like 7 guitars out on the road right now, but obviously my main girl is my Gibson SG. Um, and then I just got a custom shop telly from Fender.
Ooh.
And thank you, Ben Blanc Dumont at Fender for hooking that up. I did the demos for their 2018 line of Pro Juniors and Hot Rod. I'm sorry, Pro Junior and Blues Junior amps.
Oh, very cool.
So I was the product demo guy for Fender on those amps, and so they made me a guitar. I got to pick out all the specs on that guitar. So it's a really beautiful instrument. And then what else am I playing? I'm playing my Gibson Les Paul custom shop with the 60s neck. And that one I love to play. I've got my Tokai B Bender. I've got my black Tele Custom with Lindy Fralin pickups. And what other guitars am I using?
Is that a Tele Custom in the 70 cents where it's got the wide ranger?
Yes. Got the
Very
wide
good.
range. Yep. And I've got my Rickenbacker 12 string. And then I'm playing that acoustic HD 28 Retro by Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it right now.
That's a solid lineup. You got a good range there. You'd cover just about anything with that lineup of guitars.
Yeah, and so guitars are really like pedals for me.
Okay, tell me what you mean.
Well, what I mean is all those guitars I named, when you plug each guitar in, they don't sound the same.
Oh no,
So
totally
I
not.
used that as for each song. Like to me, that's the best pedal you can own is like the guitar itself. Like, so I think of it that way. Like, instead of playing this guitar because I love the way it sounds, what pedal am I going to add for the song? Well, it's like start with the guitar first. Like what, like because and I have a Strat. I'm sorry, I forgot about my Fender Strat. So there you go. I'm really covering
There you go.
all of it for the most part. Um, so yeah, I mean, like a Strat is going to sound completely different from a Les Paul, and an SG is going to sound different from a Tele, and vice versa. So, you know, to me, that's what I mean by that is start there before you think about any pedals.
I gotcha. That's interesting that you said that because I mean, like I said, we did an album a long time ago, and finally starting the process again of writing another one. But we were really nerdy. We got 3 guitar players, and we're all hyper gear nerds. And so it was like, okay, what are you playing on this song? You're playing a Telecaster, and you're playing and you're playing a Strat. Okay, I'm gonna play my Les Paul then.
Yeah,
Like making sure that we weren't stepping on each other's toes
no, that's
from
smart.
that. You know, do you guys do that all the time, or do you mix it up? Kind of just you look over, he's playing the Strat now. I'm gonna grab my SG, but you're mainly playing your SG though, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, now it's none of my guitars get more love than the next because the way our set list is now. I mean, it's just I'm playing them all, and they all serve a different purpose. So, sometimes Jason's playing his Blackguard Telly, and I've happened to be playing my custom shop on that song, and you know what? That's fine. 2
There's
Blackguards.
nothing wrong with 2 tellies.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And again, his fingers and my fingers, they sound different. His amps and my amp, so it's gonna sound different, no matter what. Um, but yeah, I like to think of guitars as pedals first. Like instead, like obviously they're guitars first. I just mean before I get into what I'm gonna use, like this Strat may give me the effect or whatever color that I'm hearing in my head before I stomp on a pedal.
Yeah, I got you.
So yeah.
I want to pivot a little bit here in this, getting close to the end, but when people have had the experiences that you've had, I always find that this tends to be kind of a funny question. What is like the coolest or craziest thing that you've seen out on the road that you can legally discuss?
Well, I'd have to say I'm just gonna go with like a cool moment that we've had. And that was having David Crosby sit in with us at Newport Folk Festival this year. I mean that was just one of the coolest moments I think for all of us, and we got to play Ohio with him, and we also got to
Whoa.
play Wooden Ships. But really, just getting to hang out with him too beforehand and after the show. It's nice sometimes when like folks like that do like talk to the band and stuff like that. It's obviously he has a connection with Jason, but he was really cool to the whole band and was just kind of palling around with us backstage before and after the show, and I'd say that was one of the coolest moments I've been a part of. Now, craziest, I'm not good on the spot with thinking about, when we finish this podcast, I will think of the craziest thing that I've seen. But, we're not a crazy band. It'd probably be more like travel related. But we have a really great time on the road. And, but yeah, I would say like coolest moment, especially this year, David Crosby playing with us. I mean, he's a legend.
Oh, for sure. That is pretty
So,
incredible.
yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting into the home stretch here, and this is the big question.
Okay.
The one that,
Oh God.
yeah, that's what people say. They get a little nervous. This is a heavy hitter, and and I hope you are sitting. You've been sitting down for this, right? This is not.
I am sitting down. I'm sitting Indian style on my carpet.
Okay. Well, that's even better because then you won't fall too far. But what kind of pizza do you like?
Man, I know this may sound boring, but I'm just like a straight up pepperoni man.
It's not boring.
It's pepperoni pizza.
How do you argue with that?
You can't argue with that. There's no argument to be made.
Pepperoni pizza, especially when you get the pepperonis, like the little pepperonis that curl up and they form the little grease cups.
Yeah, little like grease bowls, like Tony's
Mm-hmm.
frozen pizza back in the day.
Oh man, I'm kind of hungry now.
Yeah, I'm kind of actually speaking of pepperoni pizza. Shout out to Apollo Pizza in Richmond, Kentucky, because we just played at EKU this past weekend, and the fella or person at Apollo Pizza hooked us up after the show, and that pepperoni pizza was some of the best pepperoni pizza I've ever had.
Oh, there you go.
It was delicious.
That's phenomenal.
And I like kind of a thinner crust.
You read my mind. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I don't really like the thick doughy stuff. Like it's too much bread, too much. I like that. It's got to have a nice crunch. I like the cheese to be, not burnt, but just got that nice little char on it. Like not char, but you know what I mean. Just kind of a little brown and bubbly.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the sauce to be, well, perfect, obviously. But not too much sauce. Like I don't want to be like feel like I'm eating spaghetti, just like a nice layer. Just a nice layer.
Just enough to keep it moist.
Yeah. Yeah, not too dry. So that's my ideal pizza. And what kind of pizza you like?
What kind of pizza I like? This gets flipped around on me more often than you'd think. I got two answers. So like I really like I'm all aboard the New York style pizza train now. Like I was skeptical early on in life before I'd actually been to New York City. Now that I've been there, I'm like, you guys are right.
Yeah.
This stuff is amazing.
Yep.
So that's it.
So you like New York style?
Yeah, like New York style. Grimaldi's pizza in Brooklyn's probably the best pizza I've ever ate. So shout out to Grimaldi's. It's a classic for a reason.
So you're going stylistic on me. So you like the New York style pizza?
Yeah, and because I do like a wide variety of different toppings, but like if I had to, take it down to the bare bones basics, I'm with you. I want a New York style pizza with pepperoni. Like
yeah, maybe like sprinkle a little bit of that sawdust on top and some just a dash of the red pepper flakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, I really like wood-fired Italian style.
Oh God, here he goes.
Yeah. Well,
here he goes.
I really like food. I really, really like food.
I do too.
I'm a huge a lot of people, if I would have started a food podcast, we might have talked about guitar pedals more. But like we oftentimes go off the deep end into the land of food. And so here I am just thinking about all the different pizzas I could make.
All right, spaghetti bolognese or spaghetti and meatballs?
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Okay, see, I'm a bolognese.
I mean, it's both solid. Either way.
Yeah.
But
I like spaghetti and meat sauce instead of.
Well, yeah, I feel that.
See what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying, and when that's done right, it's really hard to beat.
It is. It really is.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about this because I'm a big fan of barbecue.
Okay.
And barbecuing, and you're from South Carolina.
Yeah, we don't talk about barbecue down here. That's just like politics and religion and barbecue. We don't talk about them things. I'm just kidding. We can talk about barbecue.
Let's talk about barbecue a little bit. I know we're going over a little bit, but that's okay. Let's talk about barbecue.
All right.
Tell me about.
What do you want to know about it?
I want to know how you feel as a South Carolina native. Like, where do you stand on this whole dry rub, mustard sauce, no sauce? Like where do you Texas style? What do you think?
Dude,
Memphis?
I know exactly where I stand.
Tell me.
I don't feel well. For one, let me just start here. I don't like mayonnaise. Okay. I know
Okay.
that might be offensive to some people, but you know what? You know what's offensive? When you don't list that something has mayonnaise on it, and it comes with mayonnaise on it.
I would agree with that. I like
Okay.
mayonnaise, but I
Okay,
agree that
and
it
that-
needs to be stated.
And that's fine. But if you're, if on the menu I'm ordering a cheeseburger, and it says, okay, cheeseburger comes with lettuce, tomato, onion. Okay. When I get the burger, why is there mayonnaise all over it? Doesn't say that on the menu. So
I would agree with that.
and I'm segueing into sauce. I like to apply my own sauce. Like I don't like someone else's version of the amount of sauce they think I should have on my food. See what I'm saying?
We're like spirit animals on this.
Yeah. I'm just like, just sauce on the side, and I'll kind of take my own journey with it. So with barbecue, the reason I said all that is with barbecue, I like for the pork to be awesome before I add anything. And you know what? This is perfect because it goes back to what we were talking about with pedals
Mm-hmm.
and guitars.
Yeah,
and
you
how I
start
think
with the
about
guitar. Yeah.
Yes. Like look, it's the same with songwriting, but with barbecue, I like the pork to taste awesome before I do anything to it. So if your pork isn't a lot of South Carolina stuff with like the mustard sauce, it's like they slop it on there on a bun for you. The sauce is already like mixed in. Well, it just tastes like mustard. That's all it tastes like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a fan. So I'm more like of a fan of the dry rub pork, and then probably the I like a clear like vinegar with like pepper vinegar is kind of my go-to. And the mustard base is fine. But and I like red sauce too, but I'm more I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, so maybe that's where it comes from, because like North Carolina, like Lexington style barbecue is the vinegar base.
I like the vinegar base.
Yeah. And I like the vinegar based slaw. Like I don't want mayonnaise slaw on my barbecue,
Go ahead and say that one more time for everybody, because I could not agree with you more.
I don't like mayonnaise slaw on my barbecue sandwich. Well, I don't like mayonnaise. So I don't like mayonnaise slaw on anything, but I like just like the vinegar, like cabbage slaw.
I like mayonnaise. Let me just put it out there. I'm a big fan of mayonnaise. I don't use too much, but I really enjoy mayonnaise.
You like just a reasonable spread.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't want mayonnaise slaw. I like the vinegar slaw.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too much for me to deal with.
Well, you know what it is? It's gross.
You're just going to say it. It's gross. It's what it is. It's gross. There you have it.
Yeah. So it's same with songwriting. Like if the song is shit, then adding a bunch of stuff doesn't really make it better. Then it just sounds like a bunch of stuff.
That's true. It doesn't work at all. You're right.
This is what I'm saying.
I like that. You got to start with a solid base. So you're right. You got to start with good pork.
Yeah.
Or beef, if you're a brisket guy, which I like both, just depends on my mood.
You
got to do that right and then add the sauce to it.
Look, you want to talk about burgers?
Can we talk about burgers?
Yeah, I mean, so the burger, like season the meat.
Do it right. Mm-hmm.
Do it right. That's the base. All right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your song.
Yes.
That's your pork. That's your guitar. Everything
else is the effects you apply to it.
Yeah. And then if you want to put a whole salad buffet on top of it, that's up to you.
Yeah. But the meat literally has to be there.
It's got to be there.
In songwriting, in food, and in life, the meat's got to be done right.
This one's yes.
I almost said done well, but I don't want it done well.
No, I don't. No. Yeah. Good save.
That was close. Save. I was gonna, I was gonna like make that statement. I was like, no, not done, not well done. No, medium rare, medium rare.
No, you want it done right.
Yes.
Yes.
Correctly.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Exactly.
beautiful. This
Yeah.
is beautiful.
That
Well,
kind of sums it up.
Sadler, I think they couldn't possibly cap this episode off in any better way, but I would like to give you the opportunity before we close this out to tell people where they can find out more about whatever you want them to find out about. It doesn't have to be about you. It could be about anything. It's your chance to put up a billboard.
Okay. Well, you can I encourage you to listen to I put out 3 of my own singles this year. One of them's called Monster, and the other 2 are called Still Kids and Anywhere But Here, and they're on iTunes and they're on Spotify and Tidal and all those things. You can listen to music and buy music from. You can go to sadlervaden.com. I just put out a brand new shirt, and I'm offering signed LPs in the store there. So sadlervaden.com, click the store. Follow me on Spotify and Apple Music and all those things, and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm on all that stuff, so you can keep yourself updated with whatever I'm up to there. I would list some shows, but I'm not sure when this is going to air, so I don't want it to be, airing after those shows. But
Well, I was told to put this up in late January, so around NAMM time actually will probably be when it comes out.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to be at NAMM.
Me too.
Yeah. And then we've got a lot of dates with Jason Isbell and the 400 unit getting booked right now next year. So y'all come see us next year. Sadlervaden.com. Check out my new music and check out those new shirts. And there you go.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. This has
Thanks
been
a lot,
awesome.
Blake.
All
Thanks
right,
for having
everybody.
me.
Yes. Oh, you're welcome back anytime. This has been fantastic.
Cool.
Love
I'll
it.
see you next week.
You don't. I mean, I'll do it. I really will. You don't make promises you're not willing to keep, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. For Sadler, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you have it, folks. We got another one wrapped up for you. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And if you need a little more, of course, we got more on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/tonemob. You can hear the extended version of this conversation. We talked for quite a bit longer. We got really into the weeds about a lot of highly important subjects. So if you are interested in this kind of conversation, there's always more on Patreon. We got a ton over there for you, and it's just $5 a month gets you access to extra episodes each week, just right there, right for your ears, and it helps keep these regular ones coming as well. So thank you very much for all of that, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it, share it with your friends, tell your grandma about it. Let's get more of them sweet, sweet downloads. I've been seeing quite an increase lately in those downloads, actually, so I think my pleas are starting to work. So thank you guys very, very much for everybody that's shared this with someone or, just told somebody about it. That helps a tremendous amount, boosting the signal, if you will. So thank you very much for that, and I will talk to you next week, and hopefully see a bunch of you at NAMM. All right, later. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously, seriously, seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.